listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting us spend some time with you today. One of these days I've got to come up with a new intro. But it is good to spend some time with you.
Absolutely.
I am being closely supervised and monitored.
Yes, he is. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
If you like what you hear, and speaking of which, I don't have any grab your hat moments tonight that I know of, which is odd for me. But that's a good thing. If you like what you hear, don't forget those share buttons, like buttons. Hit the notifications. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps other people find us much easier. Books are still available. GiveGod90.com still up and running. As far as I know, that's all the advertisements, right?
I believe so.
So I can actually get started now.
Yes, you may.
Okay. When I was preparing for something that will happen in the very near future, but I'm going to make you wait to hear that. Can't quite tell you exactly what that is right now. And I was preparing for what was going to happen, and I was reminded, oddly, of sitting in a small group and hearing the Psalms read in their original language. They were read in Hebrew. In English, we don't get to hear the meter and the poetic flow of the Psalms, but in Hebrew, it's easy to pick those things out. Most people that I know that go to an opera don't understand the words in the opera, but they can hear the rhythm and the pattern of the music, right? Why you'd want to do that, I don't know, but people enjoy it. Knock yourself out. Psalm 37 is what is known to the scholars. Notice how I said it very scholarly, right? It's known to the scholars as an acrostic poem. And what that means is that each stanza begins with a successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Now, that doesn't mean that each verse, as we have them marked, is going to work that way. But the way it's written in Hebrew, each of the next lines is the next begins with the next letter of the alphabet. It's kind of neat. It starts out with Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, and on down the road. The chapter and verse numbering system wasn't put in place until the 12th or 13th century. And the only thing it was used for was to make it easier for people who were studying to go back to a reference, keep track of where they were. It really, you can tell as you read from one chapter to the next that train of thought gets interrupted sometimes, especially in Isaiah, because some of what Isaiah reads, he goes on for chapters. It's kind of like he takes a great big breath and then just starts saying things. and it's one continuous concept, one continuous thought that he's trying to express, and it takes several chapters to do that. So don't think that you can do like Psalm 119, and each verse is going to start with a new letter. It's a little different. It doesn't work that way for Psalm 37. I'm going to try and make it through the end of Psalm 37 tonight. Maybe that's why I don't have anything earth-shattering, or shouldn't be earth-shattering. And as you will hear, David repeats some things. And what he's doing is pointing out the dividing line between good and evil, between righteous and wicked. So we're going to pick up where we left off last time. And if you want to read from there to the end.
The wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous are gracious and giving. Surely those he blesses will inherit the land, but the cursed will be destroyed. The steps of a man are ordered by the Lord, who takes delight in his journey. Though he falls, he will not be overwhelmed, for the Lord is holding his hand. I once was young, and now I'm old, yet nevermore I see the righteous abandoned, or their children begging for bread. They are ever generous and quick to lend, and their children are a blessing. Turn away from evil and do good, so that you will abide forever. For the Lord loves justice and will not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever, but the offspring of the wicked will be cut off. The righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it forever. The mouth of the righteous man utters wisdom, and his tongue speaks justice. The law of his God is in his heart, and his steps do not falter. Though the wicked lie in wait for the righteous and seek to slay them, the Lord will not leave them in their power or let them be condemned under judgment. Wait for the Lord and keep his way, and he will raise you up to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, you will see it. I have seen a wicked, ruthless man flourishing like a well-rooted native tree. Yet he passed away and was no more. Though I searched, he could not be found. Consider the blameless and observe the upright, for posterity awaits the man of peace. But the transgressors will all be destroyed, and the future of the wicked will be cut off. The salvation of the righteous is from the Lord. He is their strength in time of trouble. The Lord helps and delivers them. He rescues and saves them from the wicked because they take refuge in him. And that's from Psalms 37, verses 21 through 40.
When I showed what we were going to do tonight, she says, that's a lot of reading. But throughout this psalm, David is describing and comparing the difference between those who trust the Creator and those who don't. That's what this one's all about. The wicked borrow but do not repay because they are self-centered, selfish. There's a lot of other adjectives I could use to describe them, but you get the idea. But the righteous are generous, considerate, compassionate to others. Quite the contrast there, isn't there? The people who receive the Creator's blessing will inherit the land. Well, what land's he talking about? They were already in the land, right? We went over that last time, right? Yeah, okay. He's talking about the new earth. And here's where a lot of people get upset for some reason. Because while the people who receive the Creator's blessing inherit the land, those that the Creator curses do not. Now, what's the difference between the two? Well, the ones that he will bless are the ones who trust him. The ones that he will curse are the ones who have either rejected him or who don't trust him. It's that simple. It's our Creator who determines who is righteous and who is wicked. He's the judge. And he's the righteous judge. We often don't see people for who and what they are, right? Now, our Creator would not give us or would not judge us unless He gives us the boundaries that say, here's what I want you to do, here's what I don't want you to do. And He's done that. Because we don't always see people for who or what they are, really. Our Creator is the only one who has the ability to determine who is righteous and who is not. We know several people who would probably offend the average churchgoer, right? Some of those people are the most charitable people. They show more kindness, consideration, and compassion to others than a lot of the so-called righteous people we know, right?
Right.
I have said before, I would rather work for an atheist who is kind-hearted than for someone who uses their religion to cover up their selfish greed.
Absolutely.
Verse 23 was interesting. We read the translation that the steps of man are ordered by the Lord who takes delight in his journey. And this particular verse has been misused and mistaught by a lot of people who, they think that God tells everybody where to go and what to do when they get there. Like we have no freedom. We can't choose for ourselves. But that's not the way the passage actually reads. A better way to translate it would be to say that the steps of man are made firm by the Creator who delights in his journey. Doesn't mean that when we walk, our Creator is forcing us to go a certain way. It means that when we choose to follow his way, whether we're traveling or just going about our daily lives, making our everyday decisions, that we have a firm foundation, and our Creator is joyful when we choose his way over our own way. David repeats again the concept of inheriting the land. We've gone over that. It's the new earth. But for David to repeat this as often as he does, it was probably a very important idea, and it's one we might want to get ready for. Just saying. The wicked lie in wait for the righteous and seek to slay them. The Lord will not leave them in their power or let them be condemned under their judgment. The people who choose to do evil will not be allowed to continue forever. Even though, face it, when you're being persecuted, it seems like it's forever, right? If you're in a bad situation, it might only last for a few weeks, but it seems like it drags on for a very long time. Sometimes you wonder, am I ever going to get out of this? Sometimes you think to yourself, boy, if I hadn't have started this project, how do I get out of it now? Sometimes, maybe if you're in a bad marriage, you wonder how you got there. Probably you chose to do that. You went your own way. If you're a young person, maybe you wonder, am I ever going to get to move out of this house that is abusive? And it does take time to do that. But those lessons will repay in the future as well. Now, some Christians might cringe at this next verse because Christians have been taught that Jesus saves, right? I'm going to do another advertisement. Christians, I suggest you read Inheriting Lies. In that book, I maintain the separation between Father and Son. I explain in great detail that when we attempt to make them interchangeable, we diminish and confuse the distinction between them. And I know there's Christians out there going, oh, but Acts 4:12, and I'll suggest they go to the older manuscripts and verify what it really says. Just saying. Figure out which is correct. We don't get to choose the one we want to be correct. We have to accept what was written originally. Remember, the Bible in its original language and context is agonizingly specific. Just because somebody who's copying a letter says, I think it'd be a good idea if I added this, chances are that wasn't a divine intervention. It was somebody's agenda that they wanted to put in there. I shouldn't have to explain this, especially when David completes his thought. The Lord helps and delivers them. He rescues and saves them from the wicked. Now let me back up a verse, because here's the verse that causes Christians problems. The salvation of the righteous is from the Lord, all in capital letters, meaning Father. The Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Yehovah. Yahweh, however you want to say it, that's okay with me. There is a very, very clear distinction that David is saying salvation comes from the Father, not from the Son. Christians, you can believe it comes through the Son, but it doesn't come from the Son. Because the Father helps and delivers them, he rescues and saves them from the wicked. Because they take refuge in him? That's not the way I would translate it, but it's functional, reasonably accurate. But, the best word to change in that translation is refuge. It should be translated to trust. Because there's a difference between trusting and seeking refuge. They're functional, just not exactly accurate. If you want to hide, that's not trusting. Trusting, especially trusting our Creator, is, when it's reasonable, stick your head up over the wall and check things out. Right? Okay, it's been quiet for 3 days. I think I can stick my head up here. I don't think anybody's around that's going to hurt me. I don't think they'd have waited around this long. If you're seeking refuge, it gives us more of an indication, more of an inclination of hiding. We're not supposed to be hiding. We're supposed to be out there leading. Ooh, what a concept. I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now. I should, but I won't. I'll be good. David's use of the compare and contrast concept in this psalm, he does very well. He lays out the differences while at the same time he shows the Creator's grace. He shows his mercy. He shows his justice. And then the lesson's driven home when David completes the psalm. The righteous receive salvation because the Creator will deliver them away from the wicked. He points out the differences, and then he says, oh, by the way, if you desire salvation, there's some conditions here, right? Because he writes, the righteous receive. It doesn't say perfect, right? He doesn't say, oh, you have to be perfect. He doesn't say that. He says you just have to be doing what's right in the eyes of the Creator. The Creator himself will be the one who separates and divides the sheep from the goats, the righteous from the wicked, good from evil. I've often said said this with a little bit of humor that, there's going to be a lot of surprised people on Judgment Day. Some are going to be surprised because our Creator considers them righteous when they might think that they don't deserve that. I know a few people that will probably be in that category. They're going to be standing there scratching their heads going, how did I get here? And there's going to be some that the Almighty will consider wicked when they just knew, oh, I had it all. And, of course, Revelation tells us they're going to be crying out, but Lord, Lord, didn't we? Didn't we? And they hear the words, who are you and why are you here? Depart from me, I never knew you, as it says in King James. Something to think about. Just because you go to church every Sunday don't mean you're righteous. I was having this conversation earlier today. It's not what we say. It's what we do every day. Gabriel tells Daniel, and many who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. It boils down to, what are you going to do every day? David describes a difference for us in Psalm 37. He's writing that there will be a day of reckoning. I would suggest to you that you look over these words, and where it describes the righteous, do the things that it says the righteous people do, and where it describes evil, don't do that. That's kind of it in a nutshell right there, right? I was listening to someone today on social media, and they were talking about how it seems like the wicked people prosper, and they do for a time. Wicked people make money. It seems like they're the ones that are often, or too often, in power. It seems like they're the ones who get everything. But, the people who do what's right sometimes don't seem to get all the accolades. And I think we're looking at that kind of wrong. The fellow I was listening to got it about 2/3 right. Because, the wicked do get their reward now. They get the money, they get the fame, they get the prestige, while the righteous seem to, just kind of hang out on the sidelines. But what the person I was listening to misses is that the righteous people who are hanging out on the sidelines, they're the ones who are spending time with their family. They're the ones who are taking care of each other. Because the people who are in the limelight, the people who, look at our entertainment industry, look at our sports industry, how many of those folks get in trouble all the time? How many times are they married, divorced, remarried, redivorced? How many times are they in trouble legally? How many times are they, with all their fame and fortune, you would think that they would have an opportunity to set an example. There are some entertainers, there are some sports figures who do that. They're not as famous. They don't show up in the headlines all the time. But what are they doing? They're spending time with family. They're taking care of others, putting the needs of others often above their own. Which one is really better off? Even now, even in this life, we know which one's going to be better off later. But which one's really better off now? The ones who are taking care of each other, or the ones who borrow but don't repay? The ones who only think about themselves, the ones who only think about what's in it for me. David lays that line out pretty plainly. And I'll say it again for the folks in the back. When you read Psalm 37 and you read what the righteous do, if you want to be righteous, do those things. When you read what evil does, what wicked people do, don't do those things. Just don't. Although it does make good fodder for people like me, right? I get to talk about you. Saw a T-shirt not too long ago that says, "Be careful what you do and say. You might wind up in one of my sermons." So that takes us to the end of Psalm 37. And I hope that you have, I'm not going to say enjoyed that, but learned from it. I hope you've learned from it. If you want to be righteous, do what the righteous people do. And I don't care who you are, don't do what the evil people do. So until Monday, we wish you many, many blessings.
Yes, we do.